Thank you. Everybody ready?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'd like to call a City Council workshop, February 20th, 2013, approximately 6 p.m. for interview, Board Applicants Development Agency Advisory Committee. Couple of notes that we're on the council here. Zena McLean has withdrawn. Okay. Sam Lurchella has withdrawn. Okay. And Linda Page would like to be re-interviewed. It was her option whether to be. We have her application here, and she was stated to do that. So at this point, we have Jeff Fleece tonight, Morgan Neely, Linda Peters, Alice Walden, and Linda Page. Is that correct, everyone?
Sounds good.
Okay. Ron, did you turn an application in tonight? Okay. You're going to be interviewed on the 6th. Okay. But we would like, if you wouldn't mind, sit with the other group out there till. Sure. Thank you very much. But you will be interviewed. Absolutely. Because we just got it. Now, let me ask you, if we run enough time tonight, would you want to do Ron tonight so we don't have to do it on the 6th for time-wise? Yeah. If not, we'll do it on the 6th. Is that,
yes, he completed an application.
He has?
Yeah.
If you would. Is that okay?
Sure.
We'll just see how it flows. And
Is he the only one that's left?
No, there's more on the 6th, too.
I don't think so. As of now, this is, no, that's why I said it. If times are fine. So let's, we'll get going. Jeff, please, if you would bring Jeff in, please. Well, she can bring it in.
Good.
No, I checked with Jeff in the last, and that was everybody.
Oh, that's good. If we can do them tonight, let's do them.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
Doing well. Jeff, I'm sure everybody, does everybody know Jeff, or does Jeff need to tell them about Jeff since we've known him?
I know him, but I don't know
Okay.
about him.
Jeff, tell a little bit about yourself for the ones that need to know.
Sure. Well, I kind of prepared a statement that kind of goes into what I was hoping, just to kind of express some of my thoughts from my involvement in the city over the past few years.
Do it.
Okay. So, dear Mayor and members of City Council, it's been my pleasure to serve on this committee from 2002 to 2008, and as councilman from 2008 to 2011. I've enjoyed the opportunity to meet more of my neighbors. I wanted to give you some thoughts to consider as you develop your vision for the city's redevelopment. None of what I say tonight should be construed as criticism. It would have been irresponsible to have made these investments in the economy the past few years.
Jeff, will you talk into the microphone, please?
Sorry. I'm known for speaking lightly.
Me too.
By who?
Continuing with the uncertainty of the 100 acres north of the city, I'm going to ignore that 800-pound gorilla this evening, and I promise that's my only cliche. The CRA should confirm its vision for the redevelopment of our A1A corridor and focus on two primary goals. One, provide safe and user-friendly access for residential and bicycle traffic along and across A1A to access our businesses and the ocean. And two, create properties of a size that can be redeveloped either as commercial or residential to increase our tax base. We should prioritize the redevelopment of our undeveloped property in the district to attract and retain business. It's time to accept who we are. We are and always have been a bedroom community. We are not an especially profitable location to establish a new retail business. A business who researches density discovers our residential nature. In the past, the state regulated our density on the low side to allow for hurricane evacuation. Most of us moved here for this reason. Most businesses will avoid it for the same reason. Another reason businesses will not favor us is our proximity to the ocean. Most businesses have not figured out a way to get those cute sea creatures to buy their products. If you take a circle 1 mile in diameter from Atlantic Plaza or anywhere along A1A, half that circle is the Atlantic Ocean. Next, consider the oceanfront land the city has purchased over time and how much the residents demanded this investment. The city is unable to collect taxes on this property, which increases our property owners' ad valorem millage over 13% from 7.5 to 8.5. Our city is so wonderful, most informed people accept this higher tax rate. All else being equal, most businesses will not select an area with a higher tax rate. A fourth reason new businesses will avoid relocating here are the site design challenges related to our predominantly undersized commercial properties. Our city's roads were originally laid out without a central downtown. Our street grid was pretty simple, run the streets westward from A1A. The distance between the streets connecting to A1A, the north to south distance, was established as the combined depth of 2 back-to-back residential properties. This resulted in the undersized, shallow lots we have along A1A and was never well suited for commercial development. New businesses are unable to meet the increased land development considerations. It's not that we have too many rules, there's just a lot more things that are being considered now in development property, mainly parking and storm drainage. None of us moved here for the underutilized commercial properties we have. In fact, the city is so great we moved here in spite of them. I think the CRA can address the challenges in a number of ways. A few suggestions follow. Provide a clear vision for the redevelopment of our underutilized commercial properties and remove rezoning restrictions, such as the ban on conversion of commercial to residential. During this last boom, when things got really heavy, I still did not see a high demand for commercial property in our area. We still have a lot of the underdeveloped properties, so that's kind of my point. I think we should just let the market determine what projects are built. And I think we could accomplish that by maybe having an overlapping zoning to allow commercial or residential in addition to a third option for mixed use over, whatever could be determined in the district. And here's kind of a big point. We need to be able to provide latitude in redeveloping our streets. When we do the streetscape for A1A, considering the streets that connect to A1A on the west side, we need to be able to join some of the undersized properties together to form larger, more developable ones. And those developable ones could go residential, commercial, or mixed use, like I was saying. This will require some roads connecting to A1A actually be closed. And I know there's been a dirty word about vacating right away, but I think that's really, by doing that, if we did close some of the through streets, that additional area could be the difference needed to develop these properties to satisfy stormwater retention and even provide landscape buffer requirements. Those could become shared. Instead of having a 10-foot and a 10-foot requirement, you could have one 15-foot requirement and share it between properties or whatever. But we need to encourage and make available shared parking and stormwater retention. Look at little Dos Amigos in the VFW. They can't play nice in the sandbox. Currently, our city's density is too low for residential mixed-use redevelopment on a profitable basis. Our low density is really low. I mean, it's hard to justify coming in and doing this. And of course, it was plausible when the main reason was to provide a low density so you'd have adequate means of evacuating the barrier island in the event of a hurricane. But our low development guidelines are outdated now. When the Pineda extension went to 95, that argument is really weak. So that's one of the things I think the CRA needs to implement is the increased density. Also, this is kind of restating, we provide for undergrounding of our overhead power, cable, and telephone wiring for storm resistance, corrosion resistance, and aesthetics. The residents have consistently supported this initiative. I think one other thing we need to do is provide a funding mechanism to defray the cost of businesses to connect and convert, because the utility is going to go to their DMARC, and then somebody's going to have to pay for it from the DMARC to their wall. A pedestrian bicycle path on the west side of A1A would be a natural addition to that as well. All these decisions, again, I just want to reiterate, need to be focused on two primary goals. One, safe and user-friendly access for pedestrian and bicycle traffic, for access, because we want to provide means to get from our residences over to the ocean, and to create these properties that will be viable for redevelopment to increase our tax base. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jeff, would you be willing to leave a copy of that with us? I'd love the opportunity to read it again.
Sorry, I had to read that close. I didn't want to keep you guys here all day. Quickly, sorry.
You what?
I wanted to read it quickly so it wouldn't...
That's okay. You had a lot of, it's obviously you've given this a lot of thought, and I appreciate that. So I'd like the chance to digest it a bit.
Any other questions?
No, you answered my questions.
I have some questions. Jeff, have you had the chance to read the draft redevelopment plan? Because it sounds like you're right on when it comes to the goals and objectives of the draft plan as far as connectivity and getting people from west to east and east to west and pedestrian friendly, non-conforming lots, sharing of drainage, sharing of parking.
Those were just things that seem to have been incorporated as a result of the efforts over the last few years. But no, I have not read the new plan.
Okay, and then and we do ask some hard questions of some of the folks that have been on the committee before. You obviously sat on the committee since its inception until 2008. What were some of the issues that thwarted redevelopment? And some people were very honest about some of the issues. Were there issues that are a sentiment? Why did the city of Satellite not redevelop?
It was resources. I mean, we had really done a lot of proactive stuff. I mentioned the underground utilities. We had recommended, and the CRA in the past had gone ahead and paid an amount to Florida Power and Light, because they wouldn't do the design without being paid. And, we didn't anticipate that 2 years later we wouldn't be in a position financially to go forward. However, there was still a lot of information gathered from that process, and I still think it'll benefit us today.
And we've actually talked a lot about this through this interview process, that it's cost prohibitive really to underground the entire length of A1A regardless, and not all utility lines can be undergrounded. There's a lot of successful redevelopment projects out there where there's a combination of a portion undergrounded and some of it stays above just because it's not feasible. So Barton Boulevard's a great example of that. US 1 up in Rockledge and Cocoa is another great example. It just may be cost prohibitive. We just might not be able to afford it. So.
I understand.
Okay.
Mark?
No, I know the man very well. I'm glad you're getting back into this, Jeff. Thank you for coming. And your ideas, like what Maureen said, I'd like to read that as well. But thank you for being here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Comment?
No, I just want to say thank you, and I think you bring up a valid point when you talk about the density issue, because, if you look at the DCA was a major factor in how we looked at densities, and DCA is not there anymore. There's a different entity, and it's much user-friendly now. So, density is something that we're going to be probably having to look at.
Just one other statement too, and I'm sure Jeff's aware of this being the business he is. A lot of people think that commercial brings in your tax revenue. It's really multifamily that brings in your revenue. So it's really something we seriously need to look at because of, and shadow lots are common all over the state of Florida. I mean, there's ways to deal with them, but it's true the market drives what uses come into the community, and it may be time to look at changing those densities.
Yeah. Jeff, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Okay. Morgan Neely? Morgan Neely for Cal?
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks, Morgan Neely. Actually, I go by Tal.
Tal.
I did bring a it has some of my work in it. Want to look through.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
If you would, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, my name's Morgan Neely, but I go by my middle name, which is Tal. architect. So I was born in Washington, D.C., where I started my architecture career. And I also lived down in Miami and had some architecture experience down there as well. And then New York for about 5 years, and then from New York to here, to lovely Sunlight Beach. But when I was in Miami, I had the opportunity to work on some community redevelopment projects there, which I thought might be helpful for you. I was on the Design Preservation League committee, so I worked on some of the intricacies of doing the redevelopment of Lincoln Road, and as well as some of the historic hotels there. And that was volunteer work, but as far as paid work, doing it at the same time, I was working for Architectonica, so I actually worked on the Miami Heat Arena, the American Airlines Arena down there on Biscayne Bay as an architect, project manager. So been an architect since 1989 and practicing since then. So I do have quite a bit of experience with construction, building, architecture, design. So I thought that might be of help to the community here, because I know that we would like to improve what we have. We already have a nice community, but there's some things we can do to improve it for sure. I think that we'd like to be able to help with that evolution, for sure. Also, as a homeowner, definitely interested in keeping those property values up and attracting new businesses.
Thank you. Questions?
What part of D.C. were you born in?
Well, actually, I was actually born in Alabama, Eufaula, Alabama. But
Okay.
we moved very quickly. My dad was in the military, so
Oh, okay.
I don't remember anything.
Well, I was born and raised in southeast Washington, down by the
Okay.
Navy Yard, so.
Oh, great, yeah. He moved, my dad actually was transferred to D.C. back in the 60s because he was working on the Metro. He was working on the Metro line, the development of that. So we moved there for that. So and we actually lived in Northern Virginia in the suburbs. But when I graduated from college, I moved downtown D.C. to 20th Street and 9th Avenue. So great city.
Well, I was born there in the 70s or something like that.
Something like
Yeah. You had, you made a comment about you had some ideas of, for improving the city and specifically the redevelopment district. Could you kind of share those with us?
For me, I think one of the things I would like to see most is an improvement to the A1A corridor. I think that is our front face. It's also our heart. It's where our business revenue is going to be generated. It's what everybody sees. I think A1A in general, as you drive down from Cocoa Beach down to Fifth Avenue, kind of all looks the same. I don't think it really needs to all look exactly the same. I think Satellite Beach could stand out, have something a little more pedestrian friendly looking, a little more, just a little softer looking. It's a little harsh right now, I think. I think it'd be great to attract more pedestrians to that corridor. I think it's going to encourage businesses to be there. If they see, families walking, with their kids, with the roller carriages and the dogs, hanging out, it attracts people, it attracts businesses. Right now, you just see so few people on that road because it's really not very conducive to walking down. I think without spending an absolute fortune, we could really make that look a lot better.
You're a project manager with Lighting Science. Could you share with us how Lighting Science feels Satellite Beach could be helpful to their business?
Absolutely. I think Satellite Beach could showcase some of our products, some of our new innovative products. We are working on a lot of what we call infrastructure lighting, which would be street lighting. It would be lighting for buildings, commercial style lighting. We are working on the latest, most efficient technologies. We're a leader in that. So I think it would be interesting if we could do some test case studies, maybe take a street or two and swap out some of our fixtures and to run some tests to see what kind of advantages you got from savings from electricity and light quality, beam spread. These are all things that we can improve upon. Glare reduction. These are all things that our light fixtures are going to be looking to improve upon with infrastructure lighting.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I have some lighting science bulbs in my house.
Oh, great.
In some of the things that you have done, have you worked at all in any of the projects with the Department of Transportation? Because, I mean, some of the things that you're talking about definitely are going to have to go through the
Yes.
DOT. They're not things that we can do, you know, alone. And
You have to go through FDOT. And unfortunately, with FDOT, the car rules. The car is first priority. So that's something you always have to work with. They don't care what's good for pedestrians, they care about what's good for cars. So that's something you always have to keep in mind. You know, you don't want to fight them, but you also at the same time, you can find solutions to what they consider to be, you know, not good for the car. We've had to do that. We actually had to do that in the city of Cocoa. When I was working for an architecture firm here, before I worked for Lighting Science, I worked for MAI Architecture. And we were going to do the entry gateway for the city of Cocoa. So we had designed this very nice, sort of grand looking, and they wanted it to be historic because they have a lot of historic buildings there. So they wanted it to match some of the historic buildings. And the FDT just would have no part of that. So we ended up with this little tiny little thing that you can't even see when you enter the city. So, but they didn't even want to have that, so at least we got that. But you have to work around that, you know, you do. You have to make compromises, and you have to get them on board also to what you want to do. We don't want to do it in such a way that you're trying to start a fight or argument or anything. Just if you make logical arguments, you can get some variations to some of the strict rules. Some of them are pretty strict and maybe don't really make a lot of applicable sense to exactly where you're working. So it is something that has to be addressed for sure.
I think you're right on target as far as, you know, the look on A1A, and I think we do want to stand out, and I think we're looking at some different things as gateway entries into the city, and, you know, convincing them that the speed limit probably needs to be a little lower to be able to implement some of the things you're talking about, because we're looking at different things in the medians where we can slow traffic. And
Exactly.
so,
Traffic
you know,
calming elements.
yeah, I mean, your experience and your input, you know, looks great. Thank you.
Great.
Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that portfolio. That's beautiful work.
Well, thank you very much.
Beautiful work.
Appreciate it.
Tal, just one question. Previous CRA had kind of kicked around the concept of a town center in that 100 acres that was down there. What are your thoughts on that? Is that something viable? I mean, just run with the question. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, a town center is a great thing to have. When you think about any sort of classic, you know, successful historic town, it's got a town center, and that's where some of the shops are, it's where the benches are, it's maybe where a fountain is. It becomes like the heart of the community. So those things are great. Whether or not that particular location you're talking about is the best location, I'm not sure exactly where that is. That it was being discussed, but
North of the Publix is what it is.
oh yes, yeah. Actually, we were looking at one time looking at building our new facility there.
Right.
So I think I would rather have that as my new facility. But anyway, now
It could be part of the town center.
yeah, it could be part of the town center, right? Yeah. I think that could be it.
I guess my question is, do you think it's a concept that's worth discussing?
I think it's a concept worth discussing.
Okay, thanks.
Cal, very impressive resume. And actually, we crossed paths at MAI. I used to work, I'm a landscape architect, and used to work in the engineering department. So I'm sure you've worked with Carlos and David.
Oh, right. Yes.
That was years ago. But
Yeah.
anyway, have you had a chance to look at the draft redevelopment plan that's online?
I haven't seen the most recent one. I'd like to take a look at that.
I think you're kind of point on to with some of the issues that we're already dealing with the connectivity and
Right.
A1A and South Patrick Drive and getting west to east. But very impressive resume, and I think you'd be a good fit for the crack, as we call it. Is it crack? We just call it crack, right? It's not crack committee, it's just crack.
The correct committee.
The crack.
Thank
The
you.
crack.
Any other questions? No. So thank you very much. Great resume, appreciate it.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night.
Tell Fred we said hello.
Linda Peters. Business owner, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Linda, you take a seat there, make it easier for yourself. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
If you would, please tell us a little bit about yourself, and then the council will ask you some questions.
Oh, well, my name's Glenda Peters. I have a business down South Patrick, 1180 South Patrick. It's the Vintage Emporium. I live in Indian Atlantic now, but lived in Satellite Beach since I moved here 7 years ago. I'm a Satellite Beach cheerleader, for sure. I love this city. And I think times are really hard right now, so being really creative is an important thing. I think it's less money when you're creative, and I'm pretty creative, so I thought I might be good to help you guys.
Great.
How would you be creative in the redevelopment district?
Well, I think, you don't necessarily have to, spend a lot of money to make something look beautiful. I mean, I do it with my store every day, and landscaping, those kinds of things. When I drive into Satellite Beach, I don't see anything that tells me I'm in Satellite Beach. You know what I mean? Other than the municipal signs. That's all I see. And I think there's, ways that we could be doing it where it's very inexpensive, but, it would be like a wow, we're in Satellite Beach, Melbourne has it, everyone else seems to have it, but we don't have it here. And I'd just like to see, there's a lot of different ways we could, do beautification here that it wouldn't be really expensive. Because I know we don't have the budget, So I've got a lot of ideas.
Melbourne, I assume you're talking about their wonderful historic downtown area.
Well, it's not just that. I think, when you enter into Melbourne, you're in another city. You know what I mean? When you drive through Satellite Beach, I just don't see that here. And I think we could do it very inexpensively, And other cities, too, have it, where you just know you're entering into another city. We just don't seem to have it here. I know South Patrick it's just depressing. Most of the, when you're driving down looking both sides, it just can be very depressing looking at some of the stuff that's gone on.
What do you think about developing a town center?
I kind of like that idea. I would love for us to have an area where something's happening downtown. We really don't have a downtown. I think that would be a great idea.
And how long ago did you move out of Satellite?
Oh, just last month.
Oh.
But my business is here, so I'm here all the time. And I just love Satellite. I think, all my friends are here, and obviously my business is here, so I have a vested interest in this city. And I just want to see the change be, where we're going to use our money, it will mean something, We'll get the most bang for our buck.
Actually, you kind of said what your impression is when you come into the city as an architect, describing what he thought, because he's a design professional, and then you have a business owner saying it in different words, kind of the same thing. It's not a destination, really.
Yeah.
But I believe when you invest into the community, you invest also into the business. How do you feel about that? Like if you invest into streetscape, connectivity, do you feel that is an investment into your business
I
in the long
can't
run?
tell you the number of people that come into my store and they drive down South Patrick every day to either go to work, and they go, it wasn't just my signage, because now that I have a monument sign, we're a lot more visible, but they would say, I never even knew there was businesses along here. You know what I mean? I think it's just such an eyesore, and with landscaping especially, it's so inexpensive to do certain things, where it wouldn't cost us a lot of money. And it would make a huge difference, not just a little difference. When you get people coming into saying that kind of thing, I think they'd rather go shop in Melbourne, and they know they're in a little town, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know, it's kind of like every time somebody says that to me, I'm a little embarrassed.
I appreciate you being a cheerleader for Satellite and also maintaining your business in the city.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Okay, Alice Walden. Good evening. All right, Alice, if you would, tell us a little bit about yourself and whatever you'd like, and then the last question, since we already know you.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm a mother of two wonderful children who are actually grandparents of their children. I have two kids that graduated from Satellite High School. In fact, my son had Tracy Bailey, if you remember, the physicist, and my son ended up majoring and graduating with honors in physics, I think, because of Tracy Bailey. My daughter played with Kelly Kretschmann. I saw her picture out there, and Becky was a big soccer player.
Will you pull that microphone up to you, please?
Sure. So I've been around, actually moved to Florida in 1980, been on the beach and in Satellite Beach for 25 years, in this area for 30. My husband had a business. It was in Melbourne. It was a security business, and I was in software development, worked some as a contractor for Harris, worked some as a contractor for AT&T Bell Labs, worked some as for a company that bought out a company that I've been working for. So I've done a lot of software development. My husband passed away sort of unexpectedly in 2005. He was in the middle of all kinds of business, recovering from the, he was a contractor, electrical and general contractor, had a lot of business recovering from the hurricanes, and plus with the security business and the home building industry going wild, lots of business there, and I was in the middle of that. Became a state certified residential contractor and state certified fire alarm contractor, got the businesses under control, got them sold, and then sort of went into semi-retirement. After that, I stayed on with the company that bought my husband's company for about 8 months, but then it was the summer of 2008, and there were lots of layoffs, and I was one of them. And I've been involved with the city through the Angel Food program, with the Community for a Lifetime initiative, with our Father's House. Picked that up 2 weeks after I was laid off, just great timing. Stayed with that till the spring of 2011, and my mother was with me. She passed away in the spring of 2011, and then I've started doing volunteer work at Wycliffe Bible Translators back in software. Do that twice a week, and enjoying semi-retirement, so I've got some time, and I like to do things.
Thank you.
And so,
who would like to start?
Hi, Alice. Thanks again for, it's really exciting to see new faces come out and apply for boards in the city. Have you had a chance to review the draft redevelopment plan, and if you have, what are your thoughts?
I've been through the draft, I've been through the 101, and I've been through the September, I guess it was a draft of the draft, once. I've been through it once. Had some questions, but kind of got a feel for what the CRA is and how it's independent of the city. And I am confused on, apparently that draft is not necessarily adopted, and that there may be some changes coming down the pike. So, but I did go through it. You know, I can't tell you, don't ask me what a swap is.
Oh, it's swap agreement donation.
Yeah, I can answer that one.
And then, what's your first impression when you come into Satellite along our corridors?
I'd like to be more impressed. You know, there have definitely been improvements. I know the signage program has been good. Our church has benefited from it, and I've seen lots of businesses. But I would like to see more. I just, I don't know. When I go to Vero, it's just such a different feel.
Right.
And there's more to it than just impressions, though. I think there's more
And
to it.
if I remember correctly, you have a strong financial background?
Well, I had to survive in a business. I mean, I took accounting in college, but I'm not an accountant. But I know how to deal with balance sheets and income statements and spreadsheets, and I know the difference.
Because I think if you went through the CRA 101 program, you know that the CRA is responsible for setting and adopting its own budget, and that's going to be
Yes,
integral.
and I did go through the budget.
Correct.
And I noticed that in addition to TIF, there's other revenues, which I do have a question on where some of those other revenues come from, but
Okay, thank
on
you.
a need-to-know basis, I guess. I'll find out.
Mark?
No, I think that was presented well.
One of the things that the committee will do is look at that draft and make whatever recommendations that, think for the things that need to be changed or for things that, you have questions on. So that's one of the things that I would think is the first thing that's going to go to this committee.
Okay.
So we're going to be looking for input on that. You seem to have a lot of experience in business. You've done a lot of different things and
I adapt well.
you adapt well, yeah. But I really don't have any questions for you. I think, once you get into the swing of this, you'll kind of get a feel for it. I think you'd be a good candidate.
Okay.
Hi, Alice. Aside from the redevelopment plan, the draft redevelopment plan, what do you think is or are the most pressing issues that the advisory committee needs to tackle first?
The misconceptions about the status of the debt and the pen, is there financial doom or isn't there? I think that cloud has got to be lifted off the city. And from what I can see, the CRA is totally insulated from the city. That's what I don't know if that's the case, but that's the impression I got reading that the funds, everything is total, is that correct? So I think that getting community understanding of the CRA, I think it's a tremendous potential that might be snuffed out because of this miscommunication, or it's certainly stifled in what could be accomplished if there's not a good understanding of how it works. And I know I didn't have a good understanding of that a few months ago. And I think maybe just getting an understanding and getting more community support for it might be.
Okay, that's going to be a matter for the CRA, and I assure you that will be ironed out within this year. But in terms of redevelopment projects that the advisory committee would be advising on, what would you like to see undertaken first? What kinds of redevelopment projects?
I really am not, I don't have strong preferences. You always like to have aesthetics. But I think, I was impressed with the Communities for a Lifetime initiative because I'd never heard of it until I got involved with Angel Food. But, and I did have my mother living with me at that time, and I could see the restriction of this area. Do you know that there is a woman, thanks to the Neighbor Helping Neighbor program, I took her to the doctor one time. That woman, who is 100 years old, walks to Publix from South Patrick and Park Avenue
Yep.
and back.
I see her. She walks the back streets.
Yeah. We're going to have a lot more senior citizens, and bless her heart, but she did that, and we really don't have good sidewalks in that area. I live on Teakwood, so I walk sometimes down Park. And, you've got there's sidewalks on this block and not on that block and things like that. So whatever can be done to keep people in their homes and that kind of thing would, if that's, I don't know that that's CRA though. It's not, okay. But you've got the right of way on Jackson and Cassia, which have been improved, but I have no real strong leanings to one project or the other.
Okay.
So I have no agenda.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Any other questions? I've talked to Alice a few times on the phone, so thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Alice.
I think we're good to get everybody in. Linda Page, please.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, let's do that.
Just keep saying, we've got two more. We've got Linda and Roy. So we might as well. Lenore, could you tell Ron we will interview him? Thank you. Okay.
Linda coming in?
Good evening. How are you?
Good.
Good. If you would, please tell us a little bit about yourself, even though most of us know you, and then we'll have some questions for you.
Okay. I'm Linda Page, and I was on the advisory committee, I guess from, what was it, 2010 to 2011 to 2012, about a year, and I'm still doing a lot of learning. I moved to Satellite in 1964. And chatting with some of the other applicants out there, we were having a discussion, and they said, "Oh, I bet you've seen a lot of changes here." I said, "No, actually, it looked better back in 1964 because everything was brand new, and I've seen the buildings go down, down, down." And I said, "It's really disheartening to me because I love Satellite Beach, and I think there's a lot that could be done to spiff it up a little bit." And some of the problems that we have right now, quite honestly, are old buildings or businesses that are empty right now. And I think there's things that can be done to build a little enthusiasm for the business people and the residents. So I'm a fairly creative person, and the brain doesn't quit moving even when I'm sleeping. So I'm always thinking of different things, and I just think I can add something to the committee. Any questions?
Who would like to start?
Oh, I have a couple questions, Linda. Have you had a chance to read the draft redevelopment plan that's online?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And what are your thoughts on some of the divisions?
I was here the night that they gave the presentation, and then I went home and went online and went through it again. And that inspired me quite a bit. I didn't even sleep that whole night because the brain started going again. And I actually got a great deal of ideas from that presentation that I think could be implemented right away fairly inexpensively.
And then you mentioned things that can be done to bring businesses into town. What are some of your ideas about how you would bring businesses into the community?
First and foremost, as the gentleman said that night, one of the examples he gave was, I think, that little strip mall that's just south, on A1A south of Jackson. It's just bare bones and asphalt. He said if we just slice right through it, put a few trees in, that goes a long way. A little paint can go a long way too. But you've got to create an ambiance to the area that's inviting, that somebody says, "Oh, what a great location." Because we have people here who have needs. They need different kinds of businesses, some restaurants, some professional businesses, and they would much prefer to stay here on the beach than cross over the causeway.
OTB, we call it, over the bridge. We don't go OTB.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a fact all up and down here. So I think if we could just improve the aesthetics to start with, and then really start targeting what the needs are in the community, and perhaps, seek those kinds of businesses. We're not going to get big national businesses or restaurants in here. We're on the ocean, and we don't have enough population here to support that. But we still need to fulfill the needs of the residents. And I still think it's a beautiful area. I think Satellite Beach has done a wonderful job by procuring and saving all this beachfront. And I think that alone is going to be a huge asset that we can attract people over here. I think there's some events that we can do. I'll have to feel my way with this one, with the powers that be here in this town. I had an opportunity a couple weeks ago to meet someone who is doing, she's actually started a farmer's market down in Melbourne Beach. Very impressive. The highest quality of any farmer's market I've ever seen. And she does some art shows, very high caliber. She's bringing in a whole entourage of these trucks now, these gourmet food trucks, which is like the biggest rave across the nation. We're not talking, slop out the hot dog stuff. We're talking gourmet food, and she's working with Melbourne Beach right now to do it on a Monday night there. And Orlando, they've been doing it for about a year now in Orlando, very successfully, and it brings people in. And so I think we can work and get something going year-round that can get some excitement, perhaps even bring some income to the city. We'll tread on that lightly, but I'm always looking for ways to bring some money in rather than just keep spending it. if we can do that, earmark it for certain projects to beautify the area. That's the biggest thing I see right now, is to clean up this area and get something on our right-of-ways. And really, when you come into Satellite Beach, you need to know you've entered Satellite Beach.
Well, I want you to know too that special events has been on my radar since I've been elected, and we have put in a part-time, well, I don't know if it was a part-time position, but increased the part-time position to a full-time position. And we are planning some special events, so you'll start to see some of that, Charlie.
Good.
Well, I've known Linda for quite some time. I've worked with her, and I can attest that she's very creative. She is always sparking ideas, probably on a par with John Ferguson, sparking ideas. So glad to have your input, Linda.
Thank you very much for coming in and volunteering your services, because I know you have a lot of background that's, beneficial to us, and I just appreciate you taking time out and spending it here in Satellite Beach.
Well, Satellite is kind of near and dear to me because it was the first place I ever lived when I moved to the area here. So I think it's special.
Yeah, I've known Linda for a long, long time. We served on a board together over in Orlando, a senior board, and she's a really follow-through, keep-up type of person. So I think she'd make a great addition. She really would. So thank you for coming out.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Ron? We need his application too.
I have a question. I see Steve Osmer in here. Are you not applying for this board?
Oh, the board that I applied for was...
Code enforcement? Okay.
Though I don't know when we'll get to that, but I know you're pretty busy with boards, so...
March 6th.
March 6th is when the first council meeting of the month is when we do that. Good evening, Ron.
Good evening, Council.
If you would please tell us a little about yourself and whatever you'd like to tell us, and I know there'll be some questions.
Sure. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Majority of my background in my professional life has been in public accounting. I eventually became a partner in a CPA firm, a regional firm, and did a lot of financial work, issuing financial statements, management advisory, consulting engagements for various companies. A lot of work was done in the sphere of, additionally, residential, commercial developments and infrastructure for investor-owned utilities and public utilities. Needless to say, by being the person checking the books and checking the financials of corporations and municipal entities, one tends to think that you're only caught up in the numbers. But in reality, when you're working with the numbers, you do see a lot of things that go on, and a lot of building and construction and developments that gives you a first-hand look between areas of how people are building. And one of the things I want to stress is, here is, we have funds already out there for the Community Redevelopment Agency that are available during this current budget period, and I know things during a transition take time, and everyone needs to get their feet in the door to understand what is going on. And with that statement, what I'm trying to relate is that I'm good in walking into a situation based on my past experience and understanding things in much more detail than most people do. I apply a lot of analytics. For instance, prioritizing projects, prioritizing where things should be done, all in conformity with the plan, potential plan. I will tell you I've been attending meetings here now regularly. I think it's approaching 2.5, 3 years. Council meetings, board meetings, the community redevelopment advisory committee meetings, which at one point they were far and few, and I thought it was very unfortunate. I would like to see this committee going forward, the advisory committee especially, meeting on a more consistent basis, minimum once a month, prioritize these plans for the current year, get them going, get them accomplished based on the new proposed plan with potential adjustments out there. I also would like to state that I am well aware of working in a team environment. Nothing gets accomplished by one person. It is a group and conglomeration. Everyone contributes. And sometimes we hear things that we don't want to hear, but there's always a positive thing that comes from that. There is a contribution from everyone, and I believe this city, one of my concerns here is that this city needs to invest in infrastructure and coordinate between departments. For instance, I will give you one example here. We have the Cassia project going on for the drainage. Needed, I get it, understand it, and questions came in my mind at one point. Isn't some of this potential for CRA funds? Why are we not talking between this entity and this entity? And I brought it to the attention of several council members, and it was a shame that it was so late in the project, but I think the project could have, even though it's a well-done project right now, but I think we could have planned things to work out a little better. And that is what I look to present, one of the things I'd like to present on the advisory committee. Of course, listening to the board. What the board wants to bring forward also is very, very important. And I think we could make this a very, give this community a little more freshness in utilizing these funds.
Questions?
Ron, what's your vision for the redevelopment district?
My vision for the redevelopment district right now is pretty much to have this city on the four corners, actually on the north-south corridor of A1A and also South Patrick, to create a gateways areas in the corners to where, hey, I'm in Satellite Beach. When I'm driving down South Patrick, I want to know I'm coming to Satellite Beach. On A1A, and right now we have a lot of traffic on A1A because it is the peak season of tourists and the snowbirds, and I see these cars just flying by. And I drive A1A quite often up to Pineda Causeway and cross the bridge and do things, and I just don't see the distinguishment on the road, and I know that's a work in progress. Beautification, landscaping, facade grants need to continue yet. We need to polish it up. We've got some sections here where we could put markers and designations to make it really look nice and can flow throughout the whole community. For instance, I thought where the 100 acres is, that property, I didn't think about it, but the plan that shows it, when I saw the clock tower in the corner, it doesn't have to be a clock tower, but some form of marker that we're in Satellite Beach. And I said, wow. When I'm driving down Ponita and I see that one area there, I go, phew, this sets us apart and gives us a distinguished look. And also from the south side as people are going north. I'd like to see enhancement on that and slow the traffic down so that they do come see our businesses or explore the city. We've all taken, will assume that we've all taken Sunday drives for a couple of hours here and there, and we look around other communities and we get ideas for that. And we can improve upon it here. My vision is to create more aesthetic appeal to this community. And I do appreciate, for instance, Pelican Park. That was an endeavor, a huge endeavor, a great resource. People look at it when they drive by, and I know people pull in over there. But we also have to look to ensure that their funds are there to maintain it properly. My vision is all aesthetic and combining also with some of the infrastructure issues that we have, bring them forward. And if it takes a little longer time, let's do it the right way.
I really don't have any questions because I know Ron has been involved for years and he's read all the documents, and I kind of like that motto, bring it forward. And that should be the motto of the CRA. Let's bring something forward.
Good. Mark, good.
I have nothing.
Are you a CPA?
Non-practicing at the moment.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Again, we will vote the first meeting in March. Thank you. Any further business? We'll adjourn this meeting.
Oh, I have one issue.
Okay.
A gentleman named Philip interviewed, and he wanted to be on P&Z.
Yes.
And then do we have his name on this list, or?
Well, this is, he wanted P&Z, so we talked about that. March 6th, we can appoint him. We forgot to.
Okay, I just didn't know where he was. Is he going to be on the CRA list or the P&Z list? I just don't want him to be forgotten.
Right, and again, he wasn't for CRA, and we were.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Does this end the interviews now?
At this point, we have no.
Then I think we need to declare it closed.
How does people, we all feel on that? We've had, I think, quite a good showing, and I think also the people who are interested have, I'm sure, put their paperwork in. So we need to vote on, if we don't vote March 6th, then we're losing another month, because we can't vote until first meeting in April. So, wishes?
Sounds good.
I'm fine.
Okay.
So it's over.
So it's on. Okay.
When do we?
March 6th, we can talk about it tonight at our council meeting, how we're going to do it at the board appointments. I have it in my notes. Okay. Okay. Come up with how we want to.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any other business?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Chairman, give it a couple minutes and then we'll. And you got, Cheryl, the notes of who has canceled, dropped off. Zena?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City Council regular meeting of the City of Satellite Beach, February 20th, 2013, approximately 7:10. Would you please join Councilwoman Deaning for a moment of silence and pledge?
Moment of silence, please. And a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on, agenda item number 3 is citizens' comments. I'll take Satellite Beach residents first, and then anyone else who would like to speak on issues that are not on the City Council agenda items. So the floor is open.
John Fergus, 135 Maple. Good evening. During citizen comments at the last regular council meeting, a resident stated that she pays $1,000 more in property taxes on her Satellite Beach home than she would pay for a comparable house in Indian Harbor Beach, and asked what she's getting for that extra $1,000 in Satellite Beach. In response, the mayor addressed differences in service levels. Her comments prompted me to review county records concerning her property taxes. In doing so, I noted several items that go beyond the issue of differing service levels. Because this information provides the rest of the answer to her question, I believe it should also be part of the public record. As Paul Harvey used to say, here's the rest of the story. First, the speaker said her Satellite Beach taxes were $1,790. However, county tax records show that her total tax bill, all taxes and assessments combined, was $1,735.86. Not a huge difference, but her cited number was exaggerated by 3%. Second, that total tax bill, the speaker's total city taxes were only $505.36, making it impossible for her to pay $1,000 more for Satellite Beach taxes than for Indian Harbor Beach taxes. Third, the speaker claimed the taxes for a comparable home in Indian Harbor Beach are $780 versus the alleged Satellite Beach taxes of $1,790. However, the difference between the city's taxes can account for absolutely no more than the $505.36 paid in Satellite Beach taxes, and that difference can only occur if the Indian Harbor Beach home paid no city tax. In turn, that could occur only if the property has no taxable value, in which case taxes for the other taxing authorities would also be zero. That would mean that the speaker's total $780 tax bill must come solely from assessments, an impossible amount for Indian Harbor Beach's stormwater and solid waste disposal assessments. Therefore, if the alleged Indian Harbor Beach taxes of $780 are correct, then the taxable value of the Indian Harbor Beach home is significantly lower than the $60,480 value of the speaker's Satellite Beach home. Fourth, the Satellite Beach millage was 8.3559. The millage in Harbor was 5.9352, 29% less than the Satellite Beach millage. Applied against the $60,480 taxable value of the speaker's Satellite Beach home, the Harbor home's taxes would be $146.46 less per year, or $12.20 less per month than Satellite Beach taxes. Fifth, Indian Harbor Beach's higher utility tax rates must be factored into the total tax picture. Assuming a monthly electric bill of $80, which is less than the average bill in Satellite Beach, an Indian Harbor Beach resident would pay $3.20 more utility tax per month than a Satellite Beach resident. An improbably low $60 cable bill results in $6 more in utility taxes in Harbor, and a $30 water bill results in $3 more. This comes to $12.20 more in utility taxes per month in Indian Harbor Beach for modest utility bills, completely offsetting the monthly savings in Indian Harbor Beach's city tax. When considering both property and utility taxes for homes with identical taxable values, in the price range of the speaker's home, it appears that a taxpayer in Indian Harbor Beach could easily pay as much, if not more, than a taxpayer in Satellite Beach. It's interesting how a few details can change the complexion of the story. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from the citizens? Anybody else would like to make a comment?
Hello.
Good evening. If you would state your name.
Yes. My name is Nayla Orr. I'm with the Sioux Park Elementary School PTO.
I'm Blanche Langenbach. I'm also with PTO.
We wanted to formally thank the City of Satellite Beach for getting involved in trying to help save our school, which you did, and we're entirely, completely grateful for that. So our kindergartners, not our kindergartners, our first graders, with help of their teachers, put together a very nice thank you, which we need to take for. But they all have their names up there and are very, very grateful
That's
to
fabulous.
the city for getting involved, and we'll swing around. And
Wow.
so these are all our first graders. So they will have the school hopefully for years to come to enjoy and complete their elementary education. And just, it was really important to save our school because it was important for the whole beachside community not to overcrowd our local elementary schools, and that would have happened if Sea Park had closed. So we just wanted to say thank you again. And then this is some of our fourth graders and their teachers. Well, thank you also.
Great, thank you very, very much.
So, that's it.
Great,
So,
thank you.
we will leave this with you.
Thank you.
You need to have that framed and
We will,
hanging in
put it
here.
up.
Would it be
Thank you very much.
Would it be possible to get that
Thank
on the
the
website,
children.
do you think?
Yes. And thank all the ladies at PTO, because that was a lot of work that Sea Park did also, and we really worked together. And even though they're, we've talked about this many times, that they're not in our city, but we really are part of the community, and we've always worked really great together with the communities in our area. And thank you, guys.
Did you want to get a picture with that?
Will you thank the children and let them know that that will hang in a place of honor here in our council chambers?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, I appreciate it.
Any further? Okay.
Good evening, Gabe Fine, Satellite Beach resident. Just a couple of comments. One on Mr. Ferguson's comments. Bad press and falsehoods really can hurt Satellite Beach, or any city for that matter. The reason I came up here after that is because I have a very dear friend of mine, Satellite Beach resident, that bought 4 pieces of property for investment purposes with the housing market where it is right now. Every house that she bought was in Indian Harbor Beach. I definitely told her what my displeasure over that, and she told me why she did it, and it was just a bunch of malarkey. Second thing I want to talk about just briefly is our last town hall meeting. I attended it. The only negative comment I have is that the acoustics in there are terrible. That's probably the worst place you could hold a town hall meeting. I was sitting like 2 feet, 3 feet from the moderator, couldn't understand half the things she was saying, and I was interested. And but other than that, I think it was well done. I enjoyed the chocolates and the cookies.
Me too.
But it was definitely not as contentious as the last one I attended with our appointed council person. To say that that was contentious was probably the understatement of the century. Make a long story short, it was, I was disappointed in the turnout. I thought we could have had more people. I think the best town hall meeting I attended was put together by our former CRA director, Laura. She did an excellent job with the business people, etc. Anyway, it was a good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further comment on non-council items? Hearing none, move on to agenda item number 4, council comments.
I attended the South Beaches Coalition meeting. Have a few comments to make on that. Mayor Jean Newberry and I recognized each other as both having been around for quite a while, and He told me that a while back there was discussion among the then coalition members to disband the coalition. And that's what happens when you don't have that institutional knowledge. I was part of the effort that created that coalition in the first place and was the first coalition representative to the then MPO, now TPO, Transportation Planning Organization. Apparently there was a feeling that since they didn't feel that they needed to get anything out of the TPO, that we didn't need the coalition. Fortunately, wiser minds prevailed and the coalition is safe. It's being chaired now by Indian Harbor Beach Mayor Gene Newberry. And the coalition's representative to the TPO is Scott Nickel, who is Indian Harbor Beach councilman. He's also a civil engineer, I believe, and so he's well suited to fill that seat. So I think coalition is in good hands. What's old is new again. Back in the day, a big hot issue was four-laning South Patrick Drive, and the businesses along South Patrick, especially down in Harbor, were very much opposed to it, and so FDOT wound up just making improvements for quite a distance on South Patrick. The question has arisen again, what was this, 20 years later, and it's not that the coalition is going to go anywhere with this right now, but I think we're just throwing the idea out. Is anybody hearing anything about the need to four-lane South Patrick? So I throw that out. The matter of pedestrian and vehicle safety on O'Galley between A1A and the bridge really is a current hot topic. And before the coalition goes to the TPO with any request for doing something, the coalition is going to request a TPO staff study on how to improve pedestrian and vehicular safety on that stretch of O'Galley Boulevard. Maybe something will come of that in terms of actually undertaking projects to make the roadway safer. Maybe it won't, but stay tuned for that. They will be requesting a study be done. We, the coalition, had no input into the February 14th TPO meeting, and that takes care of the coalition meeting. The CPAB has canceled their meeting for next week, and I'm really not clear on why. Their job, as we have asked them, is to review the redevelopment plan to see if it is compatible with the comp plan. That board, those folks are our experts on the comp plan, and I know that the holdup now is getting CGA there and getting Mr. LaRue there, and I just don't understand why we need consultants there for this group to review that plan for compatibility with the comp plan. And so, I'd like to see that board go ahead and meet instead of delaying this for another month. They know what their job is, and I think they can do it without the need for consultants there. Back when I was working on a handbook for city boards, it was going to be the end-all and be-all for handbooks. And when the political tides changed, I realized that it was fruitless to continue, and now I want to resurrect it. When I am finished, it will be one booklet that will be able to answer all questions about serving on city boards, and it will be extremely helpful to everyone. And here's my quandary, and I'm asking the council for this. When it comes to computers, I'm a Mac, not a PC, but my Mac laptop has both operating systems, both the OS and the Windows. I hate Windows and everything related to Microsoft, and I always have troubles, and I'm having trouble retrieving those documents off of the Windows operating system. And I need to get in there to retrieve these documents for the handbook so that I can do my work on them. My question is, would it be okay if I ask Adam to help me, even though it's my computer, my laptop, can he help me to get those documents out of there?
If the city does this, why not? I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, I wanted clearance so that nobody accuses me of, nonsense, so.
Well, we can still do that, but.
Oh. Well, then I feel right at home. Okay, that's it for me, thank you.
Sure.
I would like an answer from this council as to whether or not the CPAB needs to wait for consultants or they can get busy.
I think it's only a function of a week. Jeff, I think in your report, weren't you going to give a...
No, we're talking about different things. The CPAD meeting was canceled because CGA was not able to make it then. We tried several different dates back and forth with the board and CGA, and they just weren't able to work it out. It was the impression that I got from CGA's presentation that they felt that it was important to be there for at least the first one to answer questions, give an idea of background, that kind of thing. Whether that's the wishes of the council or not, I don't know, but that was the premise going under, was that CJ needed to be there.
Do they want to have the meeting and derive a list of questions to ask them, so at least the process is continuing?
I didn't hear what you said. Did they want to?
Well, we can't get...
Which, did they pick out a day?
CGA and CPAB right now together. They've gone through a couple of different dates, and it doesn't work for CGA. So what we're saying is we still want the CPAB to meet and review and come up with their list of questions that they can get answered from CGA, even though CGA cannot be there.
I think it's just a matter of CGA presenting the document to them. They're supposed to determine if it's consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Then we have that document, correct? So why don't we just tell them...
Get busy.
Actually, I received a phone call today from somebody we just appointed to it, and they said, this was supposed to be a board that was going to be meeting to address a bunch of different things, and the meeting got canceled. What's going on? And I didn't know what the answer was until tonight. So I would be more than in favor of having them meet. Let them meet and let them start vetting through the document.
What were the other things they were supposed to discuss that have also been canceled?
No, I think it's just that. I think it was just that. But I mean, the question was asked, if we're supposed to be doing this stuff, why was the meeting canceled?
Well, the board is going to determine if it's compliant with the comprehensive plan, so I'm fine one way or the other.
Yeah, okay. So let's just get the process going.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further?
I'm finished.
Councilman?
I see some new faces this evening. Welcome. It's nice, always nice to see new faces, and it's a nice crowd this evening, so thanks for coming. I did attend, I feel like we do a lot. I don't know, I attended the League of Cities meeting. I don't know if we had a meeting in between that or not, I can't remember. And also Gabe, I sympathize with Gabe, and I think I've expressed the acoustics at the clubhouse are difficult. Luckily for me, I was able to face everybody, so I had the opportunity to read everybody's lips where it was difficult for Gabe, and I apologize for that because we're both hearing impaired. So luckily, I guess my eyesight is better than yours, and I was facing everybody, so I had the ability to read people's lips. I want to thank Dale for supplying the pastries and the coffee. That was really a lot of fun, and it was very, although the attendance could have been better, it was very relaxed and very informal and a lot of fun. I did have the opportunity to stop by Cafe O Beach on Sunday for tea, and the first thing I noticed when I walked in there was a letter from the governor. And the letter stated that they were one of 25 restaurants in the state of Florida to have no health violations. So that's pretty impressive. So I just wanted to announce that on behalf of one of our businesses, that out of all the restaurants in the state of Florida, the governor sent them out of 25 a letter, and I thought that was pretty impressive. And one thing, too, that's very concerning to me is the tax issue that's going back and forth between Satellite Beach and Indian Harbor Beach. I hate it to be I haven't been here all my life. I've lived in the area for 20 years, and in the Atlantic for 7, and in Satellite Beach since 2000. We're neighboring communities, and it really upsets me a little bit that there's kind of like this battle between Indian Harbor Beach and Satellite Beach. So what I did in the interim was I contacted the city manager of Indian Harbor Beach, and I'm going to share this information with Jeff, and she listed all their taxes, ad valorem and non-ad valorem. A tax is a tax to me, whether it's ad valorem or not ad valorem, and I would like to just do a comparison of which taxes we have and which taxes they have, put it out there, and just put it out there for real. Because I was hearing things about they're maxed out in this utility tax and this stormwater tax, and that's not true. And we are neighboring communities, and we need to be neighboring communities, and it is what it is. So I'm going to put that document out to Chief Pearson tomorrow, and I would really, if we can just put it in the agenda or have it posted somewhere, I think it's very important to realize what their taxes are. So this misconception of who pays more taxes and who doesn't is out there. And other than that, that's all I have.
Okay. Last Friday night, in conjunction with the mayor, we had the opportunity to attend an event at Beef O'Brady's. It was by the two ladies that came up and spoke on behalf of Sea Park. It was very well done, and what I wanted to do is just basically thank every member of council for making that Sea Park issue move through. I know everybody up here did something to help that process along, and it was really a unique opportunity to see us work with that area, as they indicated, that's not part of the city, and that's really something we haven't done in the past real closely. And I just want to thank all the council for getting involved in that, and Lorraine, the stuff you wrote and that sort of thing, and Cheryl attended the meetings, Frank and I attended the meetings, and Dominic, I know you talked to some of the school board members, so thank you very much for that. Attended the Sampson's Island meeting last night, and the Sampson Island meeting, the whole group was very grateful for the motor for the boat. They were very appreciative of that. It's running great. They've been doing all kinds of things with it. I think it was the 40 horse that they got, running fine, and it handles all the issues with the wind and that sort of thing. So they wanted me to pass along to council. Thank you very much for the motor for the boat. In that vein, they have a Sampson's Island open house that's scheduled for March 9th from 9:30 to 2 p.m. Everybody's welcome to come out for that. They're going to have wildlife exhibits and all kinds of events out there on the island, and they're currently setting this up now, so you can reserve your spot on the boat by calling the number that's listed on this flyer. But they're really pretty excited about this, and they anticipate a good turnout. So I'll pass this down to Lenore in case anybody wants a copy of that. Additionally, they brought me up to speed on what they had been doing in 2012. That Sampson's Island Park has a site management plan that's available for everybody to take a look at. It lays out what their ideas and thoughts are on how they want to move forward. They're going to update this, but it's got addresses budget and all the things they want to do with ADA and passive recreation and education and that sort of thing. So it is also available. It's a wonderful document. I haven't made it through all of it yet, but except for the final part on the budget, which they're getting ready to take a look at. But again, this is open to anybody that would like to take a look at that, so I'll pass that down to Lenore. Third thing is I have been working with our city manager and the department heads on our CFAL, Communities for a Lifetime initiative, trying to bring that back up to speed and trying to get that whole process moving along. It is moving. I just got the document to Mr. Pearson earlier this week. And I will also tell you that I would like to, one person that's in the audience is, timing's always everything, is Pam Gillespie. I had an opportunity last summer to meet with Congressman Bill Posey, and Pam is the Director of Community Relations for Bill Posey. And I will tell you he was very supportive on some of the elder issues that we're facing in Brevard County. And I kind of topically covered the Communities for a Lifetime initiative, which I've talked to you over the years about. So it's still something that's very big in this community. We're going to try to resurrect that in a different form and share it with our different cities. So at some point down the road, I'll see if I can get with you on this as we move this forward. So, but thank you for being here tonight. Timing's everything. It was wonderful. Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I have to agree with Gabe and Cheryl. The acoustics in that building are bad. I was at that meeting. I attended it. It was a very good meeting, and I'm sorry that there weren't more people there because there were some good questions asked and there were some good answers given. Neither Cheryl or I knew where Palmetto was, but we kind of figured it out because it was part of the one of the improvements on the beach access. It's actually the behind Sun on the Beach. It's the Shell Street Palmetto intersection, but it was listed as Palmetto. The Board of Adjustment meeting was canceled this month, so we didn't have a meeting for that. And I attended the Space Coast League of Cities meeting last Monday night, and the president of the Florida League of Cities was there addressing the Space Coast League of Cities and the initiatives that the Florida League of Cities is looking at. And one of the topics, the main topic, is pension reform. The Florida League of Cities is looking at addressing pension reform. It's one of the things that I've been looking at over the last several years that I was on council, and I think it's something that we need to look at as we move forward. And I think the Florida League of Cities is probably going to be looking at some type of legislation that addresses it and probably will ultimately help us in the long run. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I, too, attended a lot of meetings the last few weeks, especially with the school board and the school, which was, if you ever saw people smile, Sea Park people are smiling. I think it was a really good thing. A couple things that are going to happen in our city. If you've never been to one, go. March 2nd, opening day of Little League. It's a pretty interesting thing. It's been going on in the city since 1960. Starts around 11 o'clock. I think everybody here got notice. Please make sure you call the rec department if you're going to be able to attend. And if you have to catch it, don't drop it. All right. Also, the city has been working real hard, department, to get activities within the city. And it's not till March 23rd, but never too early. Mark your calendar. A picnic in the park and a movie. So talking about community activities to bring people together and so forth. The date's March 23rd. I know the rec center's selling tickets, so please write down on your calendar. And that's all I really have to say. Any other?
Yeah, before you move on, I'm not in favor of having any tax comparisons with other jurisdictions on our website. Those of us who know the history of Satellite Beach and Indian Harbor Beach know how easily old wounds can be reopened, and it would be absolutely ill-advised to go there. It would serve no purpose. It's one thing for residents to come up and make their statements about how they perceive the taxes, but putting a comparison between Satellite Beach and Indian Harbor Beach on our website is counterproductive and ill-advised.
Okay. Taken. Any other comment? Okay, hearing none, move on to city attorney's report.
The only item I have is relates to the issue that came up at the last council meeting. I talked with Jeff about how to present it, and it relates to the issues that came up about the use of the recreation facilities that were unrelated to the rates, but they had to do with who can use the facilities. One of the residents brought up an issue regarding limiting the use of the facilities by certain groups. Two of them were for political and religious. Basically, those types of restrictions are frowned upon by the courts. And I talked to Carrie about what the genesis of the provisions were, and she really didn't know per se, other than she knew that the original mayor decided that that's what he wanted in there, and that's how they got in there, and they haven't changed since then. She indicated that one of the primary issues is that there was a general consensus that the city residents did not want to have their facilities used for worship services, for churches, and that was one of the primary reasons why it was included. There are, and this issue has come up in different contexts a lot in the last year or two, but primarily what the courts look at is what the forum is In other words, is it a traditional public forum? Is it a private, is it a forum that the city generally doesn't open to the public, or does it fall somewhere in between, and what the rules are that apply? Parks are generally considered to be traditional public forum where things, can go on as to whatever they're going to be. Basically, the city can't censor the speech or the speaker. You can have reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. In other words, how they operate within the confines of whatever it is you're doing. It appears that you can classify the different uses in different forums because basically, even though the parks, like the ball fields, would be parks, but basically the city restricts the actual parks, the ballparks, to be used only for athletics. And my understanding is it's never been really open for people to go out and hold meetings and things like that at those parks, and therefore you can restrict the use of those facilities to strictly the athletics. The issue probably comes more to the fore when you're talking about the meeting rooms and things like at the Schechter Center or across the Breezeway and that kind of thing. So the issue becomes, number one, what does council want to do with providing those types of quote-unquote regulations regarding the use of the facilities, or does council not want them in there at all? I know that the issue that was presented to the council related to the resolution regarding rates, so I guess the idea would be that, if council wants something to go forward regarding proposed regulations for the use of those facilities, they would be done independent of your resolution, because you're looking at the resolution as a predicate to raise revenue for the city, and you probably don't want to hold up the adoption of the resolution while those regulations are considered. So basically they would be excised out of the resolution, and you could just adopt the resolution to address the rates, and then if council wants to look at potential regulations, we can do that under a different context. So I'm just looking for some guidance from council whether council wants to do that or not.
Do what or not?
To adopt regulations to address the use of the facilities by third parties. You can't address it based on who the speaker is.
I'm going to say,
but you can adopt regulations. To use an example, the one I used is that the ball fields will be used for ball games. Nobody can use them for any purpose other than the athletic endeavor that you're using them for.
if this was written in 1960, it's probably time to take a look at it. And I think, obviously, you told us what we have is not going to be looked upon favorably. So I think we need to make it so it's looked upon favorably.
I mean, I can come up with different options. Like I said, I can, kind of aggregate different, like the parks in one and the buildings in another and that kind of thing, and just look at, what whether council wants to, and I can give you some kind of generic ideas on what you can do and not do, and then you can decide whether or not you want to go on from there. I didn't want to spend a lot more time on it until I got a direction from council as to, what you may or may not want to do.
The resolution, we basically tabled the resolution. And I didn't mention it, but I was at the Recreation Board meeting, and basically what they're looking at doing is, there was a lot of discussion that night at the meeting because some of the people were actually, they had spent so much time going over all of that stuff, they were kind of insulted that, we didn't do anything with it. And I think what they're going to do is after, we talked and Carrie and I and Clint kind of explained the position of the council, I think they're going to come back with some changes, not so much as the whole resolution, but just a couple of things that, that they feel might be palatable. But I think if we need to look at regulations, I'm kind of with Frank. If they were written in 1960 and there's some things we need to look at, maybe we should.
Right, because they're coming back with a fee structure. And this is nothing to do with the fee structure. So.
And that's ready, that's prepared, but we obviously didn't want to put it on this agenda without, with having that language in there without direction.
Direction from the rest of council?
And I believe the only change, I don't know if it matters, but the only change is that I remember seeing was to reduce the skate park fees.
Yeah.
Right. And that's it. So it's.
But that's different than what Jim's talking about right now. So
Completely.
if the council wishes to have Jim.
Do what we need to do to bring it in compliance with the law.
Compliance. Yeah. Is that?
Yeah, well, just going back to one thing, how did the resolution, how did it end up in front of us without legal review? I mean, we could have made a huge mistake based on what was presented to us, and that's why we have that cover sheet that said, compliance. I think all these resolutions and things need to be looked at for legal compliance before they come forward to us.
My feeling is what they looked at, if you really look at the meat of that, was more of a fee structure, and the rest of the stuff has been in there, as he said, since 1960, and they were looking at it from a fee, strictly a fee. That was part of that one document. Steve, it's not public comment, I'm sorry. So I think we should direct.
Take that original resolution and clean it up so that we are no longer lawbreakers.
Well, I understand that part, but the issue is whether council wants to look at
restrictions.
Some sort of restrictions or regulations governing the use of the facilities.
Or just take it out completely.
Or just take it out and just let it go.
Let it rip.
Agree. Okay. Any other city attorney's report?
That's it.
Okay. Move on, city manager's report.
Yes, sir. I'm going to start, since we were talking about the meeting situation earlier with, we tried diligently to put together that meeting that we have tentatively scheduled for the 27th with Mr. LaRue to clean up the comp plan so that we could get that moving forward. It just wasn't going to work on the 27th. So if it's okay, I've seen to work out the 5th of March, which is the Tuesday before the council meeting. We can have that special meeting to discuss the issues that we had at the workshop where we could not vote on anything because it was a workshop. Have that on the 5th of March. That gives us time for proper public notice as per law, plus it gives Jim LaRue time to take whatever it is that's voted and decided on, put it into play, and then we would have it for the 20th council meeting.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So our comp plan is kind of in limbo because we had comments that were going back to Comprehensive Planning Advisory Board, correct? Are we talking about the comp plan or the redevelopment plan?
No, the comp plan that
How
Jim LaRue
does one
presented to us.
determine if the CRA plan is consistent with the comp plan when we have a moving target as the comp plan?
Well, it won't be moving after Tuesday if we have a meeting.
Well, then why don't, are we kind of forcing the CRA plan before the comp plan is approved? How does one determine compliance when we haven't even finalized the comp plan yet?
Well, I don't.
They can look at all
Yeah.
eventualities.
Yeah, I would think that
And what's there now.
it's a big enough document that they probably have enough to.
And when are
start
they
working
meeting? When are they meeting? Which day are they meeting?
on. Which one?
The Comprehensive Planning Advisory Board.
That was set for next Monday.
Okay, so it wasn't just
25th.
canceled because CGA wasn't available then?
Yeah, yeah.
But LaRue
Original.
didn't finalize the comp plan question
Correct.
also.
Correct, but that LaRue wasn't going to be there anyway. LaRue, that was just to get the board started on the CRA plan.
And weren't they aware of the changes already? The comp board knew what LaRue was changing, so it wasn't like it was anything mysterious. They already knew it.
Mm-hmm.
John, is that not correct?
We know what had been changed, and so...
John, if you would, please, could you come to the mic?
John Fergus, CPAB member. We know what has been changed, and it isn't that big a list, really. And so we should be able to look at the document, the CRA plan, with both things in mind, because, when some of the stuff really has nothing to do, it's going to have anything to do, most of it with CRA, and it's possible none of it would. I don't know. But the things we changed, if the folks can't handle it, I'm not sure they should be on the CPAB. I guess I'd put it that way. I don't see it as being a big problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, and I hate to belabor the comp plan, but I don't remember us making motions on what was going to be changed and not changed.
We gave him.
No, that's why we have to have the meeting on the.
So it's going back, now that I think about it, I'm hesitant to have them approve consistency with the comp plan when the comp plan isn't even, it's a moving target, unless it's with the existing comp plan that's already in effect. That's the only way I'll allow it
Be
to.
with what's currently there plus what's proposed, and then they've covered the waterfront.
Okay. Because I've actually read both and I find some inconsistencies, but we'll see what they come back with.
And they're only going to come back with recommendations. And I mean, we're talking about streamlining all this stuff, and we're talking about trying to be, doing things in a timely manner. I'm just looking at it from that point. I think, they should be able to look at it. If they've got issues, they're going to bring them to our attention. And
Well, I completely understand, but you're talking about two major documents for the city, and a little bit of time on the front end can save a lot of time on the back end. 2 weeks, whatever, 3 weeks, they're two very important documents.
Well, the comp plan has been waiting since February of last year, so that's quite a lead time.
And the
And
CRA
I'm not thrilled about waiting till March when, 20th?
The second meeting, we have to for public notice. When the decisions are made on the 5th, LaRue has to have time to get it implemented, whatever's voted and decided on, and then there's a 14-day public notice requirement. So that's the only way that it can work.
And the CRA plan is ultimately going to go to the new CRA advisory committee anyway. I mean, we've got to put these things in place so that they're going to the respective
I completely
places.
understand, but you're talking about consistency with the comp plan and then just an advisory committee approving it. I'm not going to argue about it, but from a planning standpoint, it's just not, it's not the proper way to do things. But I'm just saying on the front end, a little bit of time on the front end can save a lot of time on the back end.
Okay, you noted. Thank you. Jeff?
Yes, sir. Recently at a meeting, we were discussing the completion of Cassia project. A resident mentioned about pedestrian crossing signs at Temple and Cassia Boulevard. The next morning I contacted Alan Potter, who said those were already ordered, already ready. They just were in the final stages of being done. And I think that very afternoon, the very next day after it was brought up, they were put up and for the proper marking, and all the other areas have stop signs, so everything should be set, and there should be the proper pedestrian crossing. Also, recently we received an update from Colin Basinger and Associates that they are on schedule. Electronically, his 6 to 8 people that he's going to pare it down to should be coming electronically about March 4th, approximately. He also indicated he would be in Satellite Beach on or about March 7th. If anybody had questions, concerns, wanted to meet, talk, whatever. Also, he had indicated, and we have tentatively scheduled for March 15th, Friday night, to have the meet and greet with the finalists. And then, of course, at that point, we would decide, the council would decide who they want to interview, and then we would set the interviews and go from there to pick a person.
Okay. The interviews, the way I have it written here is the 16th that I marked on my calendar is when we were going to do the interviews. Is that a correct statement?
Nope, that's
What's the 15th?
the meet and greet.
Okay. So on the 4th, we're going to get applicants. Back up. We're going to look at the applicants. Who's going to decide who comes on the 16th? Are they all coming, or are we picking the people that come? And who's paying for them to come here?
The applicants that he brings, I believe, the 6 to 8, will be coming to the meet and greet, I believe.
Okay. So
Unless,
he notifies them that,
yes.
that they're...
And I'm not sure if between the 4th and that day, the council can take that 6 and pare it down to 3 or 4 that they actually want to interview.
Okay, so he's picking the 6 to the 8.
Correct. He is picking the 6 to 8 and going to send them to the council for their consideration to pare down to the people that you all want to actually interview. At that point, we'll talk about coming in and, who's bringing who in and who's paying for what.
When do we decide?
That'd probably be the first council meeting.
The 6th. So we have 2 days to look at that stuff and then we decide?
No, I don't think you would need to pare it down then. You might be able to do that at the second council meeting, or we might have to have special meetings in there if they don't fill in. Because of the significance of it, we might have to have a special meeting to sit down and talk about it.
The next meeting is the 20th. So we'd either have to have a meeting on the 13th, which we're not giving those people too much time to make whatever kind of arrangements. To me.
He has it all planned.
He has it all planned, but it seems to be pretty tight there. How are we going to break it down from 6 to 8 to 3 or 4 that we want to interview, and when do we tell them that?
Well, he's going to be here on the 7th, correct? And then I think that's
the time to sit and talk about all the candidates.
Right. And what he told me, the 15th would meet and greet, and then you would interview the 16th. You could make your decision the 16th or between there or the 18th. It was his thing that you would have a city manager by the 18th.
I mean, the bottom line is that, you're the council. If you decide you need a little bit more time, then we...
Well, I guess my question is, when are we going to decide the 3 or 4? On the 7th? Are we having a meeting on the 7th after he's here on the 7th? Or when are we...
I believe it would be...
deciding that?
I would believe it would be after that.
Right. Well, I would think we'd get a hold of him and just see if he could lay out a timeline for us from the 4th on.
As of right now, that weekend, the 16th, I'm on call / which really means working. So I may not be able to participate in all of that on the 16th. I don't know what goes on.
He'd find that out for us, what his schedule for us is from the 4th on.
Yeah, I believe that his thought right now is you get it electronically on the 4th. Between the 4th and the 7th, you review it. On the 7th, you meet with him, talk about each person, get an idea, and then between then and the 15th, pare it down.
Yeah, but are we, as a council,
Correct.
deciding the people
Yes.
we want to see? If we're
Yes.
meeting with him individually, I don't know what she's doing, I don't know what
Yeah,
he's
you
doing.
would have a meeting.
We have to have a meeting.
Right, after dinners with him, before the meet and greet.
Well, let's let him give us the steps. That's what we hired him, and let's see how he would fill this in.
And we have to make sure we've got a schedule that Mark can attend.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a tentative schedule so that it can be adjusted to fit the needs of what we need to do. But just wanted to get an idea of what's going on so everybody's got a general idea of the process.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Okay, Jeff. Thank you.
And FYI, I'm out on the weekend of the 23rd, so if something, you just said if you're on call, you're basically working.
The A equals B, yeah, it does.
Well, again, let them give us what they're planning on doing, the time frame here, and then we can adjust. Okay? Moving on to agenda item 7, discuss, take action on quarterly budget review. Please.
Good evening. At your seats were placed, can you hear me? At your seats were placed the first budget report and also a budget report calendar update. The first one that was handed out was incorrect. I started off 2013 with the wrong date. So started off on the wrong foot, sorry. Boo-boo there on the formula. So this is the updated calendar of when you'll get your reports. Okay, so that aside, let's start off with this wonderful budget report, and it's color-coded.
Brenda, wait.
Brenda, is your mic on?
Can you hear me now? Hot dog.
Brenda, which calendar are you looking at?
This is
is that this?
Yes, it's this one here.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the updated one. The first one I handed out had started off 2013 with the wrong day.
Okay.
So I just wanted to point that out. So started up the 2013. That's cool. Okay. There's a Google on that one. Okay. So now we're going on to this one, the budget report, the first quarter. And if you'd like me to make any changes for you, please let me know. Okay, this has the first actual revenue and expenses to date quarter ending December 31st of 2012. First column shows our original budget, revenue and expenses, and then the variance. On the first page, I just wanted to point out any highlights. There's really nothing major going on. That's why I didn't present any budget amendment. So this is just a regular budget report. The very first page, wanted to point out midway down, the pilot hunt communities, there was an increase of $9,000, so it was over the revenue projection, and that was due to the number of units that were rented. So the prior year was $96,000 that we received, so it was an increase of 4.92% over the prior year. So that was the change in the prior year. The next page, or page 2, towards the bottom, there was a $21,000 increase, and that was a prior year insurance refund, and that was due to our low claims rate, so our modification rate was low, so they always give us a refund back of prior year expenditures. And the overall revenues to date is about 54% of our original budget. And I will make sure that that percentage is in there. I left that off, so that'll be a change that I'll make. On to page 3, there's really nothing major going on there. Now that LaRue has a contract, I will make sure that that's adjusted mid-year budget change. Page 4, nothing major going on. 5, nothing major. 6, again, nothing major. And each one of the, if you go back to page 5, you'll see that in each department there was a percentage use of their budget, and like building and zoning had 22%. Normally it would be like 25% because it was the first quarter. So each one is within their budget range. So that's why there's no big major change. Okay, on page 7, that is Fund 101, which is Community Services Special Revenue Fund. And that's a conglomerate of smaller sub-funds. There's really nothing major going on there. The revenues, which are in white, we really don't budget for donations and contributions because you can't really estimate those, so we don't really budget for those. So nothing really major is going on that fund. On page 8, we do have some fun things going on there, which is the Stormwater Utility Fund, Cassia Basin, and I had some notes over to the side. It's still a work in process. As of 12/31/12, we're still going to have additional expenditures, like for January, and a final payment, which will include the retainage. So we're still going to have an additional expenditures of $388,000 total, and we're going to have revenues coming in. So I want to wait until that's finished, and we'll have a mid-year budget amendment that'll include those items. So I didn't want to have a first quarter with no revenues coming in, and then a second one to offset that. So I wanted to wait until all of those items came in, and then have a budget amendment. On the Law Enforcement Trust Fund, at the bottom half of that page, again, nothing major going on. Page 9 is Community Redevelopment Fund. There was just a few items, nothing major. The numbers that are in red, not highlighted in red, but numbers that are in red, those were a change that was carried over from the CRA board that was made at fiscal year end of last year, 11/12, where they wanted to reallocate the prior year reserves into specific line items. That's what's showing up here. So I just wanted to highlight that and point those out to you. So those were changes that were made by the CRA board and approved by City Council. Okay? And final page on page 10, which is Capital Assets Fund. We had received a wonderful donation of $30,000 from Mr. Andre, is that how you?
Ed Andre.
Andre, of $30,000. And a portion of that went to a fingerprint machine, $15,000. And they're still going to spend more for, I believe, 4 cameras. Is that correct?
Correct.
4 cameras. So that's not quite in there yet. So that's going to be like probably a mid-year budget amendment. And there's another expense that's going to be added, or revenues coming in for the DOE Muni Building Energy Updates, which is the Civic Center. We're going to have revenues of $163,000 coming in. So that's also going to be a budget amendment. So you see why there's a lot of things that I don't put in for the first quarter as a budget amendment, because there's only half, so I don't want to put in, a part budget amendment. So I wait for a lot of things to come through and then do the whole thing at once. So it's usually mid-year budget amendment that I work on. Okay? But this is a nice synopsis for everybody to see. And if there's any changes that you would like to see, please let me know, and I'll be gladly incorporate those into the next one, or anything that you'd like. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Council, questions? Bill? Questions? No? Fran, any questions?
I would just ask that from now on that we get a copy of these in our packet before the meeting, so we have a chance to really look at them more closely before you come in to discuss them.
The only thing that I would ask is, next time, put the page number where it's not stapled, so when you're rattling off page numbers, we can't see them because they're hidden under the staple.
I'll have them down at the bottom.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
Thank you. Let me open it up for public comment. Any public comment?
Dale Abrams, citizen. I would love to see this. It's not on the web.
On the table. We just got it. It's on the table right there for you.
Is it going to be on the web, or do I have to come in and pay for a copy of it?
We have copies on the table for you.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comment? Hearing none, back to council. Any other comment? Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item number 8, discuss, take action on salary survey.
Yes, sir. Previously, we discussed the salary. Sorry, I was talking. Previously, we discussed the salary survey, and initially, I had suggested that the $4,000 come from fund balance. I was asked to look and see if there was another location that maybe that money could come from rather than fund balance. In talking with the finance director, $15,000 was budgeted in building and zoning for planning services. Those planning services aren't going to be used anymore because we now are in a contract with Jim LaRue, who will encompass all of planning and in building and zoning. So we're going to would like to move that $15,000 from building and zoning general services over to the general fund, where in the same line item where LaRue had been paid for in past years when we had a contract with him. In looking at the last year that LaRue was planning for the city for the entire year, the total amount was just a bit over $11,000. So putting $11,000 in a line item to now pay for LaRue's services where we now have a contract then leaves roughly $4,000 to pay for the salary survey, and that would be my suggestion is where to get the money from to pay for the survey rather than fund balance.
Thank you. Council, comments?
I think we ought to do it.
Well, I'm not opposed to the salary survey, but originally there was $30,000 planned for planning services in the budget, And we keep shortchanging the fact that we need planning services and we need to streamline our processes, yet we keep taking away from the line items to pay for these services. We haven't done a beach caster yet, and there's $20,000 in that, so there's a way to draw some money to pay for the salary survey since it's probably not going to go out with this quarter. But I'm hesitant to take away from these planning services that we so desperately need, such as we just tasked him with changing the site plan section of the LDRs, the dock section of the LDRs. We have the non-conforming use section of the LDRs. That's really been a problem, and I mean, if it's our goal, we really need to commit to doing some of these planning tasks that we so desperately need. So I'm hoping we can find an alternative way to pay for the salary survey.
Okay, any other comment?
Well, it's my understanding that the 11,000 that's going to go from building and zoning planning is going to go into general fund planning to be able to pay the LaRue consultants.
Right.
So it is going to planning.
Correct.
Okay, so.
But it was 15,000, so again, you might be shortchanged in the long run at the end of the year.
Well, from the 30 to the 15, our budget only has, the budget we inherited for this year only has the 15 in it. So we have to work within that budget and constraint. And if we went back, to me, we looked at the history of what LaRue has cost us over the year, and it's the 11,000. So.
No, I completely understand it, but we're also, trying to move forward with the CRA, trying to streamline processes. We're short-staffed in the building and zoning department, so I'm just hesitant to take from that line item.
Well, the thing is then my suggestion is, where else would you take the money from?
I said we have $20,000 in for the beach caster, and we're not projected to even put out a beach caster as far as I know. And
so that at a point, if we needed more funds for the planning, then we could take it from the beach caster when we needed it, correct? So the funds could be there, whether we drew on the beach caster now or draw on it when we need it. Right? We can make that line item switch at any time. Let me open it up for
You want to get the motion done first?
Then I'll open it up and then we can bring it back. Open it up for public comment for the agenda item number 8. Hearing none, bring it back to council. Council, do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the $4,000 to do the salary survey, with it coming from the $15,000 that was originally set for planning, and move the $11,000. I mean, does that need to be the whole motion? Move the $11,000 to cover LaRue for his planning services, take the additional $4,000 and use it for the salary survey.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Montanaro, a second by Vice Mayor Brimer. Any further council discussion?
Yep, I'm not in support of this. Again, this community keeps saying, hey, let's be business friendly, let's streamline our processes, but we won't dedicate the sources to it. So it has nothing to do with the salary survey. I think that needs to be done, but I think, you're biting your nose to spite your face on this one.
Well, to me, it's where you take the money. It's, you said we had 20 we could take, that you wanted to take from the beach caster. So whether we take it now or later when we need it from the beach caster, I think we're still supporting the planning. I mean, that's my intention, is to still support it. We have been pretty much very proactive in the CRA and want to get this going. So I don't believe that, at least from my end, that I'm going to not allow us to have the funds if there's funds not being used somewhere and that we need them at another spot. So I feel comfortable personally. Okay. Any further discussion? Lenore?
No.
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes 4-1. Moving on to agenda. Anybody want to break or move on? Move on to agenda number 9. Discuss, take action on contract with the Office of the State's Attorney. Jeff?
Yes, sir. I recently received a memo from the Office of the State Attorney, Phil Archer, that they would like the city to re-sign our agreement for professional services with the State Attorney, as previously with Norm Wolfinger, who was obviously no longer the State Attorney anymore. In summary, this contract has been in place for a while. It's what authorizes the state attorney on our behalf, the city of Satellite Beach, to prosecute cases where someone is arrested for nothing more than an ordinance violation, and that's it, with no other accompanying charges. By law, in order for the state attorney to prosecute that case for us, we have to have a contract that says that we authorize them to prosecute those cases. It's very rare that it happens. Most of the time, I have a little background knowledge on this one. Pretty good on this now. Most of the time, when there's an arrest situation, there's going to be accompanying state law charges, and then, of course, this would not apply. So this would be, and I feel comfortable in saying, the rare situation where, again, someone is charged with just a City of Satellite Beach ordinance violation, and we agree to pay $50 for when that happens to their office. And the wording is exactly the same as it was in the previous years that have been signed, with the difference of it says Phil Archer instead of Norm Wolfinger.
So basically, we've been doing this for years and years. All we need to do, and they want it to be with Phil Archer.
They need the name changed, and the state attorney wants it official.
I'll make a motion to authorize the city manager to execute the agreement for professional services of the office of the state attorney.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Breimer and a second by Councilwoman Deanan. Any further discussion from council?
Yeah, I have a curse of being both plain English and an attorney, and I got to tell you, this is one of the sloppiest contracts I've ever seen, filled with grammatical errors and so forth. But anyway, let's go.
Okay. Let me open it up for public comment. Any public comment on agenda item number 9?
Steve Edley, resident. Just as a perfunctory question, since the agreement is actually not between the city, but actually the city manager, when we get a new city manager, are we going to rewrite and get them to re-sign the thing again?
I'm going to direct that, Steve, if you don't mind, to our
I'm
city
just
attorney.
asking. Yeah, because it should be something on the to-do list when the guy gets, or person gets here.
It should just be the City of Satellite Beach and just have Jeff cross through and initial it when he signs it. Because Jeff signing is the city manager.
Does that answer your?
But it doesn't say that.
I just said he can cross through it and initial it when they send it back.
Okay, that's good. I'm sorry, I misheard you.
Okay.
I apologize.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve, for looking at it. Appreciate it. Any other?
Yeah. Executive resident. Sounds real cheap. The issue comes up is when you want to have enforcement of some of your codes, and it's just our codes. And then they get in a discussion with how much it's going to cost them to prosecute that case. So just be aware that $50 sounds awful cheap. And when it comes down to say, if there's some ordinance, the city ordinance in the code that's not part of the state or anything else, and you want them to prosecute, and the question has come up before, hey, it's very expensive, I'm not sure I want to prosecute that. So I think you need to go ahead and do it, because you need somebody to do that for you, since you don't have anybody to do that. But just be aware that at some point in time that may come back to bite you.
I need to ask Mayor a question. Have we had experience in the past where they were prosecuting our ordinance violations?
Yes.
Are you familiar
I don't know what the case was.
with the circumstance?
Too many years ago.
Okay. It's a rare.
Sorry about that.
It's
rare.
Yeah.
It's rare. But we had one with just our code. There's a lot of discussion about enforcing the code, and they were reluctant to prosecute it because of how much it was going to cost them, even though we had the agreement. You got the agreement, so you can try to hold it, but that was their rationale for not wanting to prosecute it. It cost so much money. But it was the city code. And that makes it difficult. We don't have... Back a long time ago, they had city courts and that kind of stuff, and you ran your whole game. It's not that way anymore. You're part of the state system, which is probably better for all of us, since they hopefully know what they're doing.
So then do they come to us and say, do you want to pay this, or do they automatically just start prosecuting? If
I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works. You have to find out. I just remember it came to us as an issue, and we ended up backing off because it's too expensive. Just be aware that if...
It's my understanding it's not an option because of amendment to the Constitution. So
No, I'm not suggesting you not do it. I think you need to do it.
Yeah,
just
you have
be aware.
You don't have a choice.
Any further public? Hearing none, back to council. Any further comment? Okay, Lenore?
Me? Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Motion passes unanimous. I'm going to take a 5-minute break here at this point.
Let's do it.
Reconvene the council meeting and moving on to, I believe, agenda item number 10, discuss, take action on contract extension for professional engineering services with Quinton L. Hampton.
Yes, sir. Quinton L. Hampton Associates has been working with the city for the past 7 years. The contract has provisions that to exercise up to 3 additional 1-year extensions, and we are currently nearing the expiration of the most recent 1-year extension. Per the contract, the city is allowed 1 more 1-year extension.
After this one?
So this is the last year extension, correct?
This would be the last year extension, so...
Question on that. As we had with our auditors, is there any state law saying we have to form any committee to renegotiate with them on an extended contract or a new one?
Well, not for this one.
Right,
but I haven't
for the
looked.
next one.
I haven't looked, no, I haven't looked as far as if we're not going to extend this and going to go out someplace, then I would find out. If we do extend this, then we have a year to figure out whether we need to, what we need to do if we want to switch.
If we extend it, let's not make sure it gets lost, so we only have a month at some point to give us enough time if there is some law that says we have to form a committee, that we give ourselves time.
Yes, sir.
We don't forget it. I think would be.
That's a good suggestion.
All right, any comment from council on agenda item number 10?
I'll make a motion to approve the addendum to the agreement for professional engineering services extending the contract between the City of Satellite Beach and Quinton L. Hampton and Associates to March 23rd, 2014.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Vice Mayor Brimer and a second by Councilwoman Gott. Any further discussion from council?
Yeah, you got to bear with me here. On this contract, Jeff, you might want to have them put this back in their word processor on the 4th line. Put the first part of a parentheses before the word hereinafter. You with me? On the first paragraph of the agreement.
First paragraph, got it.
You're not in the agreement. You're in the letter.
Oh, on the letter. Okay. Got it.
You see where it says a Florida corporation hereinafter in the first paragraph?
Yes.
You need a parentheses in front of hereafter.
Okay.
Come here.
There's 2 there. I was looking at the first one going, there is one.
That's what I was doing, but I was going to put one there anyway.
All right, and then go down to the 1, 2, 3rd, whereas June 20, I really don't think it's 2102. It's probably 2012.
Got it.
And in the first line of that, whereas extension should be plural, add an S. 2 1-year extensions.
Got it.
Thank you. Further council comment? Open it up for public comment on agenda item number 10. Hearing none, bring it back to council. I have a motion by Vice Mayor Brimer and a second by Councilwoman Gott. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lenore?
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes unanimous. Moving on to agenda item number 11, discuss, take action on capital improvement plan.
Yes, sir. It was mentioned at the last meeting to the status of the capital improvement plan within the departments and with the city in general. I had mentioned that all of the departments that have a capital plan had submitted their capital improvement plan to the city manager, actually two city managers ago, Mr. Crotty, and it has recently been put into this spreadsheet. Really, this spreadsheet just took all of the department heads, because they all came in different formats. Each department put them in different formats and put this in one format that basically had what the capital improvement was, what the estimated cost was, and what the particular year was that they felt like they would be either needed or need to be replaced, etc. So that's what you've got in front of you is the collection of all the departments as they see it.
One question here. On the FY, the 12-13 budget says capital improvements, if we were to do them all, is 891. Correct statement?
Where?
Bottom of page 2. Well, oh, that's enough.
This is the new one.
Okay, hold on. Well, it's the same, isn't it?
Yeah. Actually, it's not.
Oh, no, this is different than the one.
No, we had a couple of changes. Some of the things that were listed under fiscal year 12-13 were not funded. So the things that are not funded, since the year's already going and the budget's already adopted, we struck those out because
that's where I will.
Yeah, we're already here, so if they weren't funded, there's no sense in putting them there.
Okay. But we still have those items that weren't funded then are slid over to.
Correct. They're moved to the 13-14. Yes, sir.
So the one in our packet is not the most updated.
Right. It's just got those minor changes. They eliminated the 12-13 things that were not funded and slid them to 13-14.
Okay. Thank you.
I hope this is only for discussion because I think the document is very premature to approve as a capital improvement plan.
Oh, yeah. This is
okay, well, it said action because I was a little
Especially
concerned.
considering we just got it.
Yeah. You're going to have to show the projected revenue, what the funding source is, et cetera.
And I would think this is going to be a lot of work, more than one workshop.
Yeah.
And I think it's also going to entail the new city manager.
Absolutely.
To include in this.
It's simply a starting point.
Yeah, right. Again, I think we did this too, so it's not swept under the carpet again.
Well, and this gives you at least a snapshot of things that are coming and things that departments are talking and looking at, and you got to start. You have to start somewhere. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Any further comment from council on it? Okay. Open it up for public comment. Hearing none, back to council. We always.
So
Accept-
we're going
we
to
just
wait
accept-
on,
yeah, we're waiting on
accept
it.
on this, we're
Yep.
going to wait until the city manager is in place and then we'll start. Okay.
But I want to make sure it's on our list. It can't.
Yes, so we'll put that right on the. Mr. Mayor, what I'm going to try to do is, as the time draws near, is compile a list of all the things that have gone on, all the things that are future pending, and try as best I can to have a real comprehensive list for whoever comes in to sit down to say, and I'm trying to take all the notes and from all the conversations to try to put together a report, if you will, of this is what's happened in the past 6 months, a little bit before that, and then here's the pending things in the future, and I'm going to try to put them in some kind of order. So I'm going to do the best I can at giving whomever comes in to sit here the best snapshot I can of what we've done, where we've gotten, how we've gotten here, and where we need to go with some order of urgency.
When he gets that, I think we need to get it too, just so that we're all on the same page, because I think the way that you've set up the agendas and how we look at, what we want to put on the next agenda, we're going to be able to do the same thing with the new city manager, having that document, because we can pick and choose the things that we need to address.
Certainly.
Okay. Any other discussions? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item number 12, discuss, take action on the Community Redevelopment Agency Advisory Committee Charter. Okay. I think we had a handout. Okay.
And again?
Yes.
Okay, the current crack charter is a mess. The kindest word I can use for it. So what I did, I went through it. I eliminated all of the stuff that is no longer current. I eliminated all of the redundancies and mentioned them just one time. Even the history of the committee itself has changed. So when I did my plain English thing with this document, it came out to one page, which is really sufficient for a committee charter, and put it into two categories. One's the background, giving the history of the establishment of the redevelopment district, the CRA Advisory Committee, and the redevelopment plan. And then in 1C gave the latest history of having the committee abolished and then reinstituted, and also put in here that it's governed by the two sections of the city code that are cited there. Then I went into the responsibilities of the committee. I took every one of the responsibilities that are in the original and thought and put them in here in more succinct wording, and thought of some additional duties that really should be in there. So what I would propose is that we just go down these each and see if you have any problems with them or changes or whatever, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
No, actually, to be honest, I reviewed this, and then because I was out of pocket, I didn't have time to go over this, and I really would like the opportunity to go over this, so if we can.
That's why we're doing it now.
Well, I prefer, since it was given to us yesterday and tonight, that I have the opportunity, because I also do have some comments, and I would like to prepare a draft also represented to the city council.
Well,
let's start.
I want us to move on. You know, we are going to be constituting the crack at the next city council meeting. We need to move on. Each of us had the opportunity to read the original document and to bring to this meeting any changes we wanted to make. I chose to do that, and I'm here right now discussing what I'm presenting. And I expect others to also have their own ideas, and we will talk about those and come up with the document. Beginning with 2A.
I'll let her present it, and then we'll let the council vote on whether to postpone or adopt.
On 2A, it's thoroughly understand all the elements. This is the responsibilities of the CRA committee, the advisory committee. Thoroughly understand all of the elements of the redevelopment plan as amended from time to time, and make recommendations to the CRA board for redevelopment activities consistent with the plan. And by the way, there were a lot of errors in the current charter. Time and again, they referred to an interaction between the CRAC and the City Council, and it should actually be the CRAC and the CRA board, not the City Council. So that was changed throughout. On the second one, B, it's they will submit a proposed budget to the CRA board by June 15 of each year, along with a prioritized list of redevelopment activities for the upcoming fiscal year. The current charter includes the requirement to come up with a prioritized list of activities. However, it didn't put a time frame on it, and so I thought, well, the time to decide on your priority list is when you are recommending a budget. So the two would go hand in hand. And I said a June 15 timeline so that it could be submitted in time for the CRA to do their budget, and then for that to come to the City Council for final approval of the whole budget. Then make recommendations at other times regarding redevelopment activities as needed to meet changing circumstances.
Are you going to go through all yours and then we'll come back and have input? Or are we going to do input on each individual item? Since you're presenting it, how would you like it?
Why don't we get input as we go along?
Is the June 15th date too early? Are they going to we're going to have all the figures in on how much income the district will produce that year? by the 15th of June?
I don't know that we have those numbers by then. Because Mike would always, I mean, when I would talk to Mike, the evaluations don't occur till a certain time, and I don't know when that date is, and I don't know if it's June 15th or not. So I think we have to find out when the valuation numbers for the CRA come in.
Yeah, that's why I looked at that.
Okay, let me.
I don't think it's by June 15th, Tom. I think you're right.
Yeah, so that's why I looked at that and said, because that's earlier than we even do it in the city.
Okay.
If we don't have those numbers, it's going to be hard for them to do it. Okay.
Okay, I'll get these questions answered and come back with a different time. All right, and then for FY 2012-13, the current fiscal year, submit a prioritized list of redevelopment activities no later than May 1. Obviously, the budget for this year is done. This gives them about 2 months to decide how to prioritize the projects that they want to do. So that's why I picked May 1. Is that okay?
Are they going to have enough time to prioritize and then do budgets, given them until June 1st, do you think?
No, May 1 for this year, and it's just the
Right,
prior.
it's already there. It's already in the budget for this year.
It's already budgeted.
Right, but I'm saying is they're looking for priorities for next year?
That, whenever they submit for their budget, that's when their priorities for next year would be due.
Okay, all right.
And I need to look into that June time frame. Okay, so are we all right on that?
Yep.
On C, in February and August of each year, submit a written progress report to the CRA board detailing the status of crack and redevelopment activities. I picked those times. The current charter says quarterly, and to me that seems excessive because I'm not sure that things will move that fast that you need a quarterly report. But I picked February and August. August again being in time for the CRA and council's consideration for the budget, and then if that August time is locked in, then the 6 months related to that is February, and that works out well too, I think, because January is kind of when you regroup, and so in February they could be presenting their semi-annual report.
My question is that, you know, it seems like we're very proactive this year on the CRA, and they're going to have a lot to do. Is twice a year enough for them to report to us? I think if we're going to really be on top of this, and I think twice a year.
That's enough?
Yeah, I just get this feeling a lot of things could come up this year, and I think, you know, and I think you're right, maybe a quarterly meeting. If the meeting is not needed, we could always cancel it. But I think there's going to be a lot going on. Hopefully there's a lot going on, and I'd just like to
Do
stay
you want to
more
make
in
back to
contact.
quarterly reports?
I think so with what's going on now. So
Okay.
good.
Do you have any preference for when those months would be?
No.
Okay, I'll come back with suggestions, if that's all right.
Yes.
Okay, hang on.
Okay, so can I comment? Well, in a nutshell, you've taken what was presented to us in this agenda and created a new document. And as I said before, I didn't have time to review it, so I can't vote on anything. I did not have ample time to
Well,
review.
first of all, I don't think we're voting on anything right now.
And it's also been the policy of this council not to have other, you know, I've sent documents out the day before the meeting and you know, it's 72 hours ahead of time. So I'm requesting that I be allowed ample opportunity to address my comments regarding this advisory committee in writing.
Please.
And the amendment.
And then on D is maintain, oh, and by the way, on the will be quarterly progress reports, I had semi-annual there, the first report being due in August of 2013. I guess we would want it sooner? Considering that we want quarterly reports?
You're going to put them in place sometime in March, so I would say by June they should do at least something.
Okay, so the first report will be due in June. Is that okay? It's 2013?
Yes.
Okay. D is maintain effective and regular communication with the CRA board, encourage all CRAC members to attend all CRA board meetings, require at least one designated member to attend and report back to the CRAC. Is that okay?
Yep.
E, if needed to accomplish its work, request funding from the city council, and city staff will be assigned as needed to assist the CRAC. Is that okay? F, provide information for the city's newsletter and website to inform residents of CRAC activities and solicit feedback. Is that okay?
Does that need a frequency at which that is done, Lorraine, or is that just a global?
I would envision it as whenever you have information.
Okay.
I'm not sure you can.
That's global, that's fine.
Okay.
That's good.
G, determine meeting times and dates and provide minutes of all CRAC meetings to the CRA board. Mr. Jagutis had made a comment about infrequent meetings of that committee, so maybe we want to say determine monthly meeting times and dates to get the message that they need to be meeting once a month unless they have no agenda items. Okay. And then H is
Go
perform
back
other.
to that. Do you want to meet monthly or more often as needed or as needed?
Okay.
Do you, I mean, I'm just, if in the initial stage, if they want to meet every couple of weeks or whatever, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, okay. I'll change that. And then H is the catch-all, perform other tasks deemed necessary by the city council, the CRA board, or the CRAC. And that's everything that was in the current charter, plus additional things that I thought were appropriate.
Are the makeup, are those in the ordinances?
What?
Yes. The committee membership, you know,
But
how
actually,
it shows, and that's in the ordinance?
It's in the code.
Yeah, it's in the code, I knew it was, okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
This is a question. Can they form subcommittees within this to do different things? Is that?
You want me to put a reference in here about subcommittees?
I'm just asking if that's.
Would be a good idea.
Okay.
Because there may be, I mean, I know initially there were people that were looking at underground, there were people that were doing different things, so those were a little task force.
Okay. Got it.
Further council comments before I open up for public? Hearing none, open up for public comments?
Roger Gudis, resident, Satellite Beach, resident of the CRA. I have a document, citizens have a document in front of them that's several pages, and I guess there was a last-minute revision, and I guess it's obvious now that there's something else out there. And then I have to relate it to another agenda item going back also that was changed last minute. I would like to ask the council and city management to attempt to make a policy, if there are changed documents, to post them on the website as revised agenda items so that at least we can take a look at them prior to the meeting. I know there's a lot of effort going into this, but I do believe that citizens should see this also. Thank you.
Thank you.
And will this be posted?
Well, let me respond to this as a document of something else. This was just a council person's worksheet that they passed out.
I understand.
So the council person did it and passed it out as any other council person can give us backup document. It was not an ordinance in our packet. It was just backup document the way they would like to see some changes, which any of us can see.
I understand that, Mayor. I understand that process, Mayor. Okay. But please include the citizens. If you do submit this and there's time for city staff to post it, it brings us on board too, and to give comments, reasonable logistical comments for us. That's all I ask. Thank you very much.
I would like to comment because I've emailed things to the city manager to be distributed the day before the meeting, and they were not, because it was this policy of the city council not to distribute documents less than 72 hours ahead of the meeting. And I personally take offense to this because I was out of pocket yesterday all day due to a family emergency, and I didn't have time to review it.
This was handed out at the meeting tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
It was also emailed yesterday late in the afternoon.
Right. But it was handed out to us, as you could have come tonight with your version of this and handed it out. It's just notes. Until we put it together, it's
It was
just notes.
distributed through the city manager yesterday.
I think, you know, when you look at this stuff here, this stuff should have been on the web, or should have been done the day before too. I mean, I understand this thing, and anybody could have brought this thing, just like Lorraine brought. Right. But some of these other things, you know,
what will happen?
You know, it's going to happen, but we try to get it out as soon as we can get them out. We just got this stuff for the financial stuff tonight.
Okay.
Dale Abrams, CRA stakeholder. I commend Councilwoman Gott for putting all this together, but, you know, I'm sitting here looking at my tablet, and I don't even know what you're talking about, because what I'm looking at is totally different. And I really would like to know, you know, I would like to be able to see what it is that you're talking about. So I concur with Ron. You know, put it on the web if you can, because that's the easiest way of doing it. I print it up, and then I usually download it on my tablet so I can go through it while we're at the meetings. So,
thank you. Any further citizens' comments? Hearing none, back to council. Council wishes.
Well, I will make these changes that we talked about here tonight and bring this back at our meeting on the 6th. And we do need to approve a charter at that meeting, because we will be constituting the CRAC at that time. So it will be timely then to approve this.
I would like your changes in the agenda package so that I can also review it in a comprehensive manner. You're not asking for changes to the existing charter. You've basically rewritten it. Not, you know, I would like to see the document in the agenda package.
It will be there.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comment? Hearing none, moving on. Item for the next regular council meeting.
In the back of your package, you'll see the tentative proposed agenda items for March 6th, with the addition of the charter. And I believe now, after the direction that the city council gave, we can put the resolution to lower the skate park fees that the rec board wanted on there. So that should also be included on the 6th.
Okay. Is there any other pending issues that we need to?
Just a question, Jeff, on the presentation by the police department. Is that going to become an action item? In other words, are we going to have to act on something that night to move it forward, or just informational?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the action would be to continue the progress.
I would think we'd want to say discuss and take action in case we're ready to do so at that time. And we haven't had the presentation. We don't know. We need to.
Perfect. Thank you. That's where I was looking.
The wording.
That's fine.
All we don't want that to happen is we have a deadline that we need to get this in place, and there's about a 6 months lead time. I've been talking with acting chief quite a bit on this. And
at least 6 months.
Yeah. So we want to make sure.
I think that'd be great. Thank you for doing that. Good.
Given that presentation and discussion, is that a full slate?
That's
I just want to make sure, because those pending issues, we need to add any of them to it. but it looks like.
Obviously, we'll take a look at it one more time, but I think that it's going to be a pretty full meeting as it sits.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to appointments to boards. Real quick, I just want to bring up an idea for when we vote on the sticks for the crack board, okay? We have approximately 18 applicants, if I'm not mistaken, and my feeling is we vote for 11, and the top 9 by vote are on, and the next 2 will become the alternate. I think it's an easy way to do it. Everybody gets a vote, and it's marked as one. And have Lenore have a sheet for us, and then we can re-vote on the ones that there's ties. So if everybody gets a 5, people who get 5 obviously are on. Is that a simple way, everybody? Cheryl, is that an okay?
Yep.
Way? Okay. Lenore, we have any other appointments to boards?
CRA, the only person that wasn't able to coordinate for an interview was Elaine B.
Okay.
That's the only one that I have, that was kind of closed earlier in the previous meeting. So
There-
I have for this particular item.
And we missed a gentleman last time and didn't vote to put him on a board. So if we could make sure that's on the March 6th, I'd appreciate it.
And Elaine advised me that her friend is gravely ill, so she is out of town and she won't be able to interview.
Okay. So at this time, we have the interviews and the number of people. Okay. Okay. Moving on. Agenda item 15, adoption of minutes.
Move to adopt as submitted the minutes of the 2 January 16 workshop meetings, the January 17 special meeting, the January 17 workshop meeting, and the February 6 workshop meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Gott, second by Councilman Montanaro. Any further discussion? Hearing
Hold on a second. Trying to get her to the right page here. Oops. There we go.
Oh, no, I know they're listed, but
Okay. Here they are. Yeah,
Oh.
that's the one that came
and
out.
I was out of pocket.
All right, any further council comments? Hearing none. Lenore?
No, just because I haven't had a chance to look at them.
Yes.
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 Yes. Passes 4-1.
Let's look at this. Do we have a meeting, who's meeting on the 5th of March? You mentioned the meeting on the 5th of March. Is that CPAD?
No, that would be the special meeting, the 5th of March would be the special meeting with LaRue to go over the plan.
Is that in stone?
Yes.
So
That's in stone?
If you all can make it, then yes, then it works out well that we can meet that day to get that document finished up from the discussions that went on at the last.
Does that work better than the 4th, where we don't have the time with the 4th, or that's when LaRue can make it?
No, the 5th was, he's got some issues in the 5th. So if there's any way we can.
All right, okay, I got some, at that workshop, since it's a workshop, do we want to start at 6?
No, that would have to be a special meeting so that you could vote.
Okay.
Which day is that? Which day are we talking about again?
So it'll be a special meeting.
Tuesday, the 5th of March.
Can we start it at 6 o'clock?
Anytime you like, sir.
She didn't hear what you were saying.
Can we start at 6, that meeting?
It's on the 5th?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a need for that? 6?
I have an appointment that evening that I can change an hour with that.
No, that's fine.
Okay, thank you, I
So
appreciate it.
this is a special meeting on the comp plan, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And this would strictly be, Mr. Louis is going to come back with what the issues were brought up and
Right. Okay.
go through them, vote on them, and that should be it.
Okay.
Again, can we need to have an agenda well in advance to look at, if you don't mind, for that meeting?
Absolutely.
I just actually received the information this afternoon, late afternoon, so we can't get
Any further council business?
Now, you have a workshop at 6 o'clock on the 6th. If we don't have any.
We don't need that workshop.
We don't need that workshop. That goes away.
Correct, but we won't need that workshop because it's been closed. I'm not missing something.
Well, wait, we could be, if we have other board positions open that people, applicants.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to, that could
That could be
change.
6:30 though, it may
Right.
not be 6.
All right, so keep an eye on your packet.
Okay.
Any further business? Hearing none, meeting adjourned.
Oh, okay, that's all right.
No, tell her anything you want. Come on, Dean. Oh, it's really good.